So speaking of connected devices, my heart rate is 102 beats per minute right now. So I want to tell you a little bit about why, well, not only being here, but why this is kind of the weirdest moment in my life. It's pretty spectacular. I actually, I have an office in the Pentagon. Now, you guys don't know me, but that's a pretty weird thing, right? I work for the Department of Defense. The door to my office, it says Rebel Alliance. True story. But here's the thing. Every week, I get to meet with generals from all over our military who come and visit us. That's pretty cool, because guess what? They're not the ones from Star Wars. These are like the real deal, right? These are the real generals who run all these things that you see in our military. It's pretty spectacular. It's really weird. Teresa mentioned we are a Defense Digital Service. We're a spin-out from the United States Digital Service. We're really tasked with this idea of bringing in the best talent, technology, and processes from the private sector to transform how we do things within the federal government. To you, that probably sounds, you've all probably experienced this in some way. It's hard, right? It's really difficult. So that's what we're focused on. That's what we do. United States Digital Service was formed at the not-so-successful launch of healthcare.gov. You probably remember that. 6 people were able to sign up for health insurance on the first day. 6 people, right? I don't think anybody in this room would consider that to be a successful launch, right? But here's the thing. I believe deeply that people like you and people like me can show up in government and make a difference. And I'm going to tell you a couple stories about how we're doing that and real things that we're able to do today that I'm pretty proud of. And Amazon's actually been pretty helpful in us being able to pull off some of this stuff. But the first thing I want to tell you about is something called service treatment records, or STRs. Most of you probably have no idea what these are. They're actually the medical records that, for the most part, tell the life of the brave men and women who serve our country. They basically are the document that's used by the Department of Veteran Affairs to make sure that when they leave the DoD and they fall under the care of the VA, that they're able to get the treatment and the care that they need, right? It's a pretty serious, important document. But here's the thing. When we showed up to look at that project, there were about 20,000 documents that had silently failed moving over from the VA to the DoD, or from the DoD to the VA. 20,000 documents. But that's not the big one. On top of that, doctors are scanning new medical forms, right? Taking paper, scanning it into pictures, scanning these documents, and they're faced with an innocuous selection of 3 file formats for the medical records that they're scanning in. PDF, TIFF, or JPEG. Really quick, think, which one would you pick, right? But here's the thing, they don't know the impact of what they're actually doing, right? But here's the thing, there's only one file format, one, that's the correct answer, PDF, because the VA will only accept PDFs. What do you think happens to the other documents? They silently disappear. Amazing, right? On top of that, they hadn't shipped a major software update in about 18 months. So what would you do? I'll tell you what we did. It wasn't really that complicated when you think about it. We got them shipping to production every 2 weeks, right? Like, this is something that most of you would probably do in any other thing that you're working on, right? Every 2 weeks. On top of that, we actually worked with them to do things like getting rid of a tech stack that didn't really make sense. They were actually using SharePoint as the database. They weren't using SharePoint. It was the database. That's pretty amazing, right? Because that's not the way it's supposed to be used. And on top of that, we wrote file converters, right? The documents, when they disappear, here's what they are. They're the document that says that I was exposed to hazardous chemicals and I need chemotherapy for my cancer treatment. That's the document. I get goosebumps every time I tell that story. That's why I showed up. I want to tell you about another project. GPS, you've probably used it. You're familiar with it. Stops us from driving into lakes if it works right. So it turns out the DoD runs that, right? We actually run GPS. And we're working on a new version. It's bigger, better, bolder, faster, stronger, all these things. It's really, really cool. This whole new version is going to replace the constellation of satellites sitting in the sky today. It's really, really cool. I can't wait for it to come to your phone in the future. It's not going so well. See, if every one of us were to leave this room today, we were to go out and start a new software company, what is the first thing you would do? You would probably work on a tool set that was, that took care of things like automated build, automated deployment, configuration, all these things, right? But what if you actually waited until you had about 900 people billing on the project, you had about 20 major system components, and on top of that, you had a couple million lines of code? What if you waited that long? It's pretty hard, right? So I'll tell you what we're doing, and this is pretty cool. We actually deployed the first ever national security system, or as in DoD parlance, Impact Level 5, system to Amazon's GovCloud, right? So we're working on things like automated build, deploy, all this stuff. But here's the impact of it. When we're done with the thing that we're working on, we're going to take something that took 3 weeks, and we're going to take that down to 15 minutes for something, yeah, right? They know. So that's the really cool thing. I'll just mention, because I'm running out of time here, we also do something called Hack the Pentagon. It was the first ever federal bug bounty. I just want to say we did something called Hack the Pentagon, and it was the first ever federal bug bounty. And it's going really well. But I'll finish this out with this. This is a little bit of a call for help from you. We need people like you, and we need people like me. This stuff doesn't fix itself. It's not easy, right? But the most boring, mundane, everyday part of your skill set that you take for granted is novel and unique and matters. It matters. I hope that you'll come join what we're doing in some way. Bring what you know. Help us move this stuff onto a cloud where we're not racking and stacking servers and trying to figure out how to maintain this stuff anymore. Please do that, or come join us. Come join the Rebel Alliance. Go to usgs.gov. I hope to see you come and join this fight with me, because I believe that it's important, and I believe that you're the answer. Thank you.